Hello again, my name is Suzi Perry and today I'm supporting Two Wheels for Life by taking over their Instagram account, and you can find out about the glorious work they do on their website twowheelsforlife.org or on their Instagram page on the tiles below, and of course in the story throughout the day. I've enlisted the help of some friends today, some live interviews coming your way. Franco Morbidelli in a few hours' time, then Maverick Vinales and Danilo Petrucci to finish off this evening, before we have a Zoom party with Jules Ryder and Michael Laverty. And speaking of Michael Laverty, my favourite boffin is going to be our first guest when he patches in. And we'll be chatting to him about life on the bike, life off the bike. And thank you, some of you have been sending in your questions, and if you have any questions for any of the riders today, feel free to send them and I'll give you a shout out and I'll pose your questions to the riders. And how are we doing with Michael Laverty? I think he's on the way in.
Yep. 1 second.
I've got a challenge for you as well today. It's called Get Your Kit Off. Your kit off. All you have to do is take off your leathers, time yourself, film yourself, donate £3 and nominate your friends to do exactly the same thing. But now we can say a very good morning to Wales, I think, and Michael Laverty. Hello, Michael, how are you?
Good morning, Susie. I'm very well, thanks. And you?
Excellent, very well, thank you. I know we had a chat yesterday on the Breakfast Club, but let's do it again today and have some different questions. But first of all, how is lockdown treating you and where are you?
I'm on the Wales border, Kinsham Raceway, and it's been quite good, actually. Nice to have some time at home because generally our schedules are so busy. We're always on the road. Whenever I was racing full time, I travelled from event to event, and then whenever I joined you guys as a broadcaster, I was even busier because I still travelled to World Superbike events, BSB events, endurance events, and all the MotoGP rounds. So it's been weird being home for 2 months, but it's been good, as most people are doing, getting through their to-do list, doing all the odd jobs they never get around to doing. So I've been looking at the positive side of it in that way, but I'm itching to get back to racing. We just need some sense of normality back in life again, I think.
Yeah, well, obviously we know that patience is a virtue there, but we hope that it can't come fast enough, can it? What about if you were racing full-time now, if you can take your mindset back to racing in a championship? How do you think it is for the riders themselves when there's no real goalpost of exactly when they're going to get back to racing, is there?
Yeah, that's got to be tough because we always work to a schedule, and we have a idea in mind in how your training goes, how you plan things with your race team, and to have no definite plan of when you're getting back on a bike again. All the hard work you've done over the winter, because these guys will have had a strict diet, that have gone down to their race weight, that have trained really hard, ready to peak for March. And unfortunately that will be tough to take, knowing that you've put in all that hard work. But all the messages I've seen from all the guys that've been looking at the broader picture and realizing that it's not important whenever there is a crisis as we have. So they've all been quite I guess quite understanding of the situation. But as a racer, you're really selfish, and you think that life revolves around your schedule and everything has to work like clockwork. So it's a tough thing to take, but I guess just getting that new target. So once you get, if Dorna do manage to get this potential schedule underway in early August or late July, as is rumoured, then you've got a new target, a new goal, and you just reset all those benchmarks and you go put in the work over the next few months and get ready to race again. But they'll all be itching. They're a competitive bunch, and it's tough to sit on the sidelines not doing a lot, especially if you're locked down at home and you can't get out. In some countries, in Spain and Italy, they haven't even been able to get outside and run and cycle and stuff that they're used to doing. So it's been a tough lockdown.
And I guess that the season is going to be a different kind of season if we do get any races underway, in the fact that we almost certainly won't get a full season, perhaps even half a season, 10 races. Some people even saying maybe just 4 or 5. But the manner in which that those races will happen, in terms of possibly less circuits and perhaps even consecutive weekends of racing at the same circuit. So it's just going to be adjusting all the time, really. But I guess we're in a situation where any races is a bonus.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the case. We have to accept the fact it's not going to be a clean championship. We're not going to get even 10, 12 rounds would be very lucky, I think. And it's mostly going to be in Europe by the sounds of things. So if we just get some racing, get to see the action again, we gotta take what we can get. Hopefully, everyone can line up on the grid. That's the one worry, is that someone tests positive for COVID-19 and they're told they can't enter the paddock. Or then at this stage, I think the show will still go on, and then someone could end up not afforded the opportunity to race, or a race team lose some key members before an event. But from what I understand, it could be back-to-back weekends at the same circuit. That's the rumour circulating now, that we could start in Austria at the Red Bull Ring and do 2 back-to-back events. Formula One are considering that idea as well, but anything would be great at this stage.
Yeah, it certainly would. And the riders seem to have gyms in their own houses. And have you been keeping fit during this time? Have you got some equipment there?
I have a little bit of a gym setup, but I don't use it too much, to be quite honest. I had in the first couple of weeks, I got back on my bicycle again, done a bit of cycling and a bit of running. But to be honest, the last few weeks I've just lost interest. I've been tinkering with bikes instead, and I haven't actually got back into it, but I will do now. The weather's turned pretty crap here in the UK. We had a few weeks of sunshine, and that was nice, but right now it's pretty gloomy. So we're due some sunshine again, and now that I don't need to train anymore, as no longer been a professional racer, where it was a requirement. You get up every day and you structured your day around that. But now I do it just to stay healthy. So I get quite lazy at times. So I will get back on the bicycle when the sun comes back out again. I enjoy getting out on the road. It's quite nice.
Yeah, well, we long for those days. Got some questions for you from some people that are listening in today. Chris Berryman would like to know, during your career, of course, you rode 4 strokes, but have you ever ridden any 2 strokes? And what's your preference?
I have, actually. I started my career as a motocross rider on 2 strokes. Then when I started racing on circuits, it was on 125 2 strokes. And then I was lucky enough for a 2-year period to race a 500 V-twin Honda in Irish Superbikes. So I was racing that against Superbikes, the old NSR 500 V-twin. It wasn't the top line V4 500 GP bike, but it was really impressive, and I loved it. That was a great bike because part of weight ratio, it was really difficult to ride because it was incredibly torquey, but it taught me a lot, and I then moved on to Superbikes. I think I was only 19 when I jumped on that, and it was a great bit of kit. And right now I still keep 2 strokes. I'm a big fan of them, so I have little pit bikes, and I have a 150 Honda and then an 85 KTM, so I've got a 2-stroke version that competes with it, and the same, I've got a 300 Husqvarna enduro bike. So I still am a big 2-stroke fan, and I love the smell of them, I love the sound of them, and I'm looking forward to the BT Sports Show this Sunday. We're throwing it back to 1992, so we'll get to see the greats rear wheel steering the NSR 500s and the Yamahas, Wayne Rainey and Mick Doohan, Kevin Schwantz. Those guys were my heroes when I was growing up. So it'd be nice to see them back on the box this Sunday.
Yeah, it really will, won't it? And they're so aggressive, those 2 strokes, aren't they?
Yeah,
unforgiving.
They bite. That's the luxury we have now. That there's a common misconception when you talk about traction control that it almost rides itself. The current riders, Marc Marquez and Valentino Rossi did win a 500cc World Championship, but he's the only guy on the grid who has experience of the 500 2-strokes. But they would adapt, but they were vicious. They did bite, and the amount of injuries the guys had, I guess the nature of how the 2-stroke engine works, it fires every time the crank rotates, and that just makes the power delivery so aggressive, and it's a narrow window of power. But they learned how to ride them, to rear wheel steer them, and the tires weren't as well developed as we have these days, so they figured a way to ride them, and it was so spectacular to watch. So we've got the opposite way now, with the 4-strokes of a lot more engine braking, so we've got the drifting going into the corner rather than out, the way the 500 GP era did. So we're now in a spectacular era, but in a very different manner. But like you said, they needed to be treated with respect. They were proper race bikes,
and that's really, I guess, why we see less Highsides now, because of the nature of which the bikes ride. Exactly
that. The Highsides are almost a thing of the past. So the 4-stroke engine, it fires every 2 revolutions of the crank, so the power delivery is spread out a little bit more, a big wider band of torque, but the traction control is a big aid to that. So if you look at BSB now, there's no traction control, and you don't see that many Highsides. There are a few more of them in the traction control era, but in MotoGP nowadays, you've got like the you've got an initial traction control and then almost a safety net that's a bit further away from the riders. Don't use it, they don't lean on it, but it's there to hopefully catch any potential high side. So that and the evolution of the airbag suit, we don't see the riders aren't carrying as many injuries, although they crash more often than they did then, I guess, but they were back in the 500 era, there were always big high sides. So injuries have lessened as well. So it's a better era to be a professional racer, and that's how Valentino Rossi is able to race into his 40s, because he's still relatively healthy and not carrying so many aches and pains.
It's extraordinary to think, isn't it, that he may well even be racing at the age of 42 next year if he gets the chance to continue. But we wait to find out more on that, because of course we're not quite sure. And regarding that, Richard Smith would like to know about contracts. Michael, what are your thoughts on rider signings? Do you think that they'll be carried over to next year, or do you think teams will be looking to bring in new riders or retaining the riders that they have? Because there hasn't been many changes this year, has there?
No, at the moment, as things stand, the only thing that's due to change is Fabio Quartararo is due to replace Valentino in the factory team. Whether some of the manufacturers may decide just to roll the contracts that they had in place for 2020 over to 2021, that might be the easiest thing. But the other thing to consider is that the manufacturers themselves are going to be facing hardships. So the budget they had in place may not be the same for 2021 as it was for 2020. So some of the riders may have may be forced to take cuts or have to accept a less favorable contract. But it's the politics of that will all be getting worked out now. I'm sure the managers are having some ongoing conversations with the teams now to try and work out a plan going forward. I think we won't see too many changes in the MotoGP field. I think everyone who was contracted to ride 2020 will probably be on the grid in 2021. I can't say that for sure, but that's my take. I think Ducati are the guys, the big manufacturer who haven't quite committed yet, but I see they probably will renew with Dovi, and I can't see anyone else that's going to go in there to replace them. So it's hard to piece it all together right now.
Another question for you on endurance racing now and your experience there, from Dale Robinson. Thanks, Dale, for your question. Your favourite moment during 24-hour endurance races, and which is the most difficult hour to stay focused?
Probably the best hour in a 24-hour race is when the last hour, when you cross the line and it's done, because it is so tough. But I do actually love it. I love the buzz from it. In Le Mans, in the middle of the night when you're riding down the straight and the bonfires, there's smoke from the bonfires, there's a little bit of floodlight, you've got your own headlight, and there's something quite peaceful about it. I don't know if people are into mindfulness or any sort of meditation. When you're out there in the dark and you've just got you and your headlight and you're watching your braking markers, it's really peaceful, really serene. And I love that just being pinpoint accurate and just picking your markers and keeping the lap time going. You actually go really fast at night because the engine runs a little bit faster with the cooler temperatures. So sometimes the lap times actually get better at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. But that's whenever the tiredness kicks in. So the last hour before the sun comes up, that's probably the toughest. And then whenever the sun comes up in the morning, you feel like you get a second lease of life. You get breakfast and it seems like you're on the run down to the end of the race. But it's endurance racing is a funny thing. Some people love it, others aren't into it. It's not the best spectator sport, I grant you, but it's a real team environment. Every rider plays a huge part. Every mechanic plays a huge part. The massage therapists who keep your bodies in shape to jump on the bike again. It's a different nature of racing. You're not quite at the limit because you can't afford to. If you try to ride for the 8 1-hour stints at the absolute limit, you're going to crash or make mistakes. So you've got to just pull it back, but be incredibly consistent and make your lap time through the traffic. So it's a completely different discipline, but one that suits me quite well in at this stage of my career, where I'm just coming back from professional racing, but I still love to ride motorbikes, and it doesn't require you to be at the top end of your fitness.
A bit more for you, a bit more endurance racing on the cards?
I hope so, yeah. I hadn't actually done a contract with any team because Le Mans 24 was due to clash with Argentina, and then Barcelona GP was due to clash with Germany, so I couldn't do the first 2 races this year. So I don't actually have a contract in place, but endurance is a little bit like that. You can kind of come in for one event whenever a team need a rider. So I do plan to get back to it whenever it gets back up and running. So it's it's something I think, you look at some of the best riders have been in their mid-40s. Vincent Philippe has just retired, and he was one of the greatest. So it is a sport that favours experience over youth.
Another kind of discipline now. A question from Clint Poitier. I'm sorry if I've spelt pronounced your surname wrong, Clint. He says, would you ever consider doing the TT?
No, not no chance. I love the event. Always have done. I was a huge fan of it as a kid. Loved Joey Dunlop, was a hero of mine. Philip McCallan, Carl Fogarty, Hislop, when they were at the early 90s. That for me, that was the pinnacle. But I was lucky enough to get the opportunity to do a few parade laps around there back in 2014. Me, Cal, Bradley, done a lap around there on road bikes, pulling wheelies and having fun. And it was awesome to ride 37.75 miles of closed roads where you could just have fun. But to be against the clock, to be attacking those sections the way Ian Hutchinson and Michael Dunlop and Peter Hickman do at 10 tenths, there's no room for error. The guys, they ride it. It's that's the thing that keeps me away from it. The safety element. If you make one mistake, it could be. It has dire consequences, and for that reason, that's why I would never do it. But I love the buzz from it, and I love the circuit. It's such a great thing, and growing up in Northern Ireland, it's a huge sport there. Road racing it's almost mainstream. The local news, the UTV news, BBC Northern Ireland News, they report on it. They keep us up to date on it. So it is a big sport in Northern Ireland. So it was a tough one to not go down that route. But my dad was a road racer, and when he finished his career, he said he didn't want us doing it. So for that reason, out of respect to my parents, we never considered it. And they put a lot of effort in to get three boys racing in the British Championship, and a lot of travel to get us out there, and a lot of expense. So out of respect for them, I never really looked at even the Northwest 200 or the Isle of Man TT. But I am a huge road racing fan.
He wanted you to race without any road furniture. I remember coming over to cover the Cookstown, did a documentary on some of the girls that race on the road in Ireland, Melissa Kennedy and co, and it was fascinating, incredible. I just was full of respect for them, and a certain amount of mum came in just to hope they came home safe, but it was so exhilarating to watch. The sheer skill involved is something else. It really is. Michael, today, Two Wheels for Life have got the Get Your Kit Off challenge, hashtag Get Your Kit Off challenge. Jake Dixon has done it. Wondering whether you will be partaking later on today.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a go this afternoon. So I haven't actually seen how fast Jake done it, but I'll take a look, and I've got to try and beat that. Has Jake set the benchmark so far?
I think he might well have done it. It's on the story, so take a look.
That's a challenge.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll give it a go. So helmet, leathers, boots, gloves, into full kit. Get your phone out, record it, time it, post it up on social media, and then I guess we nominate 3 other people and we donate to the charity then. So to Two Wheels for Life.
Yeah, exactly that. And talking of the charity, Michael, what does it mean to you? We're all involved, obviously, around the British Grand Prix, the Day of Champions and the likes, but you know the great work that they do. Just tell us a little bit about Two Wheels. Yeah,
it's fantastic. I've always been a part of the Day of Champions in the UK, and obviously they used to do it in America as well. So it's great from that point of view, get what they do to get all the racers together. But the work they do back in Africa, to transport the medical supplies and the fact that they use the bikes because they work so good in Africa. The roads don't hold up to the cars so well. They're a cheaper way of getting the supplies about, and it's a great thing, and they've raised so much money over the years that and all the bike racers love supporting the events.
Yeah, they get to the places that are quite inaccessible by cars as well sometimes, don't they? And from a personal perspective, there's a lot of women involved as well in maintaining the bikes and teaching, there's not just going out and visiting health visitors and stuff, but also the technical side of it. It's very interesting. They do an incredible job. Michael, I know that you're going to be joining myself and Julian Ryder tonight in the Zoom room, in the Zoom party, Sundowners with MLav, Julian Ryder and myself, and to get involved with that, to buy a seat in the Zoom room, you need to go to the Two Wheels for Life website, which is twowheelsforlife.org, and you can get yourself a place there. I'm just wondering if there's anything else I'm supposed to tell you about while you're on. No, other than to say that I'll be back at 2 o'clock with Franco Morbidelli, Maverick Vinales and Danilo Petruccio to come later today. But for now, from Michael, thank you very much, MLav. What are you going to be up to until we meet you later in the Zoom room?
Actually, after yesterday, I tidied up my garage yesterday afternoon, so I think I'm going to go up there and tinker with some motorbikes. And I'm just looking out the window. The sun's come back out, so I might even tempt myself to go out on the push bike.
Excellent stuff. As always, a joy to chat with you, and I'll catch up with you this evening. Thanks, Michael.
Cheers, Susie. Thank you.
I'll leave you now to have some lunch. Catch up with us later on 2 o'clock BST for Franco Morbidelli for our chat. See you later.